Hello, friends. Before we actually embark on the journey on spirituality, I would like to give you a bit of a context. Late last evening, Archangel Michael came to say hello and give me a message. I was informed by the YouTube mentors on sacred alignment and spiritual evolution or some such channel that Saint Michael has been standing guard on you ever since you were born, and he is disappointed that you have not paid him any attention, and so he'll be coming tonight with Archangel Raguel to meet you briefly. Listen to him carefully and what he has to say and look at his eyes. So I waited eagerly. And this, when actually Archangel Michael came, he didn't come in the form as was expected, but he came as a flag, the Indian flag. He came as a rainbow in the sky, and it appeared as the Indian flag with orange, white, and green. It was not like a regular rainbow, which would be narrow bandwidth bands, a band of colors, and spreading, fading. But this was very specific, and it was these three colors were there, and it was a beautiful sky, evening sky, and he did give me a message. He said, in today's digital age where everyone wants to be heard, and since everyone is so busy on his phone, mobile, laptop, tablet, whatever device that gives him access to a platform that connects him to certain others who may call themselves as ASDFGF or semicolon LKJHJ, whether it is as a channel on YouTube, an account on a Facebook, faceless Facebook, or as an iconic influencer at Instagram, you just have your say. Whatever it is that you want to say, irrespective of whether anyone wants to hear. Now you make all efforts to ensure that it reaches as many people as possible, irrespective of whether they consume it or not. A mere click will also do for filling your pocket. I, for one, have more than, this is me, okay? I, for one, have six. My thought went when Michael was telling this. I, for one, have more than 6,500 followers on a Facebook account that I've not logged in. I've logged out some years ago. But there are people who are actively engaged in it until I had to unsubscribe from the Facebook notifications. And there are multiple accounts created with my name and credentials which Facebook has allowed. Whether such individuals exist or not is immaterial as long as Facebook gets the mileage and has a positive bottom line. Now AI has made instant video generation software tailor-made for Instagram Reels, multiple posts designing from subjects ranging from A to Z, and that is the chief occupation, and as bringing revenue for sale of AI creative courses ranging from real estate to interior decoration, health and fitness and quotable quotes to lifestyle, you name it and they have it. There are people who make ready to use courses with a ready list of followers who will subscribe to it. No sooner you launch your 90-day program and then you repeat after 3 months on the same subject or another subject. Now Michael is telling me what I'm coming to say is Archangel made his appearance and told me last evening that he has no work on earth now. And so he's going back to heaven where gods need help. He says people are too busy with their mobiles and I don't get my airspace on those platforms. There is no way I can draw their attention. They are too focused on things that are not my area of expertise. So, sister, I came to bid goodbye. You were the only one who used to call out to me while going on a scooter or during branch managers meeting to handle those hot-headed executives who used to fire left, right and center. I made life easy for you, but now that you're retired and nobody is even bothers to visit you, you are safe. And I have a clear, trouble-free connection with you direct from heaven, thanks to Almighty. I don't want to hang around here where I cannot get even a foot space. But before going, he just said, Sissy, let me remind you of what you had once told me about how a journalist named Kushwant Singh, who dreamt that he had interview with God. Come in, God said. That interview went like this. He was reminding me. Come in, God said. So you'd like to interview me. If you have the time, I said. God smiled and said, my time is eternity and is enough to do everything. What questions do you have in mind to ask me? What surprises you most about mankind? I asked. This is the journalist Kushwant Singh asking. God answered that they get bored with being children, are in a rush to grow up, and then long to be children again, that they lose their health to make money and then lose their money to restore their health, that by thinking anxiously about their future, they forget the present, such that they live neither for the present nor for the future, that they live as if they will never die and die as if they have never lived. God's hands shook and we were silent for a while. Then I asked, as a parent, what are some of life's lessons you want your children to learn? God replied with a smile. To learn that they cannot make anyone love them. What they can do is to let themselves be loved. To learn that what is most valuable is not what they have to have in their lives, but who they have in their lives. To learn that it is not good to compare themselves to others. All will be judged individually on their own merits, not as a group or on a comparison basis. To learn that a rich person is not the one who has the most, but is one who needs the least. To learn that it only takes a few seconds to open profound wounds in persons we love, and that it takes years to heal them. To learn that there are persons who love them dearly, but simply do not know how to express or show their feelings. To learn that money can buy everything but happiness. To learn that money can buy everything but happiness. To learn that two people can look at the same thing and see it totally differently. To learn that a true friend is someone who knows everything about them and likes them anyway. To learn that it is not always enough that they are forgiven by others, but that they have to forgive themselves. I sat there for a while enjoying the moment. I thanked him for his time and for all that he has done for me and my family. God replied, I am here 24 hours a day. All you have to do is to ask for me and I will answer. Michael said this and he flashed the Indian flag in the sky and disappeared. I sat there for a long time looking at the blank sky, actually the colors in the sky. It was there for some time, for quite some time before it faded away. And then I came back into the room. I couldn't get sleep for a long, long time until I recorded that video last night. Then I decided to do some work and record this video. One video that came up was a summary, was about the findings of all the experiments that has been going on covertly and a little bit lately openly as well through YouTube videos on various aspects which they wanted to study by experts. So they had that video transcript. I got ChatGPT to summarize in 2000 words, less than 2000 words, and this is what that ChatGPT gave to me, a summary of that video. What I had given the prompt was, please summarize the above text in 2000 words, expanding upon how you stood your ground when everything around you was designed to make you fold. But instead, you moved with strategy, discipline, and calm power, bringing out the qualities of courage, strategy, and the kind of final stand without panic, weakness, or surrender, but to give them a masterclass in pressure, timing, and spiritual authority. So, ChatGPT gives me a summary like this. The message is not really about war, conquest, or defeating enemies. At its core, it's a lesson about what happens when a person refuses to surrender their inner authority in face of overwhelming pressure. It is a story of someone who stood firm when everything around them was designed to force them into panic, compromise, confusion, or collapse. Instead of reacting emotionally, they responded with discipline, patience, clarity, and strategic restraint. Their greatest victory was not over other people, it was over fear itself. The central theme is simple yet profound. True power is revealed not when circumstances are easy, but when pressure reaches its highest point. Most people imagine courage as a dramatic act, filled with noise, confrontation, and visible heroics. Yet this text presents a different vision of courage. Courage is remaining calm when others expect panic. Courage is maintaining clarity when others expect confusion. Courage is refusing to betray your principles even when doing so appears to be the easier path. The individual described in the narrative found themselves surrounded by forces that expected surrender. Critics laughed. Opponents dismissed them. Systems, structures, and circumstances seemed aligned against them. Every prediction pointed towards collapse. Every observer expected the same outcome. Yet the person at the center of the story did something unexpected. They stood still. That stillness became their greatest weapon. Instead of rushing to defend themselves, they observed. Instead of reacting to every attack, they listened. Instead of allowing pressure to dictate the choice, they allowed pressure to reveal them the truth. This is where the story transforms from a tale of survival into a lesson in strategy. Most people think strategy means making aggressive moves or overpowering opponents. The text argues the opposite. The real strategy often involves restraint. It requires the ability to delay action until the right moment arrives. The individual understood something their opponents did not. Momentum is not the same as control. Activity is not the same as effectiveness. Noise is not the same as power. While others exhausted themselves through constant movement, they conserved energy. While others rushed to conclusions, they gathered information. While others acted from fear, they acted from understanding. This distinction changed everything. One of the most important lessons contained in the text is the concept of positioning. Power does not come from dominating every situation. It comes from placing yourself where truth becomes visible and where outcomes naturally begin to favor you. The individual was repeatedly portrayed as cornered. Yet, rather than viewing the corner as a trap, they viewed it as a vantage point. What looked like confinement to others became clarity to them. What looked like weakness became leverage. This is a profound strategic insight. Many people waste enormous energy fighting circumstances they cannot immediately change. They resist reality instead of understanding it. The person in this narrative did the opposite. They studied the environment. They identified patterns. They recognized weaknesses hidden beneath apparent strength. As pressure intensified, something remarkable happened. Instead of becoming weaker, they became clearer. Pressure stripped away distractions. Pressure exposed motivations. Pressure revealed hidden agendas. Pressure simplified decisions. What others experienced as chaos, they experienced as information. This transformation represents one of the deepest forms of courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the ability to continue seeing clearly despite fear. It is a refusal to allow anxiety, anger, or desperation to become the architect of your decisions. The text repeatedly emphasizes patience. Patience is often misunderstood as passivity, but here it is presented as an active form of strength. Patience allowed the individual to avoid unnecessary mistakes. Patience prevented emotional reactions from creating strategic vulnerabilities. Patience gave them the ability to wait for circumstances to reveal themselves fully. Their opponents interpreted patience as hesitation. They mistook restraint for weakness. They confused silence with surrender. The miscalculation became this miscalculation became the foundation of their defeat. One of the most powerful themes running throughout the narrative is the difference between reaction and response. Reaction is immediate, emotional, and often unconscious. Response is deliberate, thoughtful, and intentional. The person in the story refused to react, they responded. That distinction transformed the entire situation. Every attack became information, every insult became insight, every obstacle became an opportunity to understand the landscape more deeply. Because they were not consumed by emotional turbulence, they could see possibilities others missed. This level of composure eventually evolved into something greater than strategy. It became spiritual authority. Spiritual authority is not domination. It is not control over other people. It is mastery over oneself. The individual's greatest achievement was not forcing others to change. It was maintaining alignment with their own values despite enormous external pressure. They refused to compromise their integrity simply to gain temporary relief. This inner alignment created a form of strength that could not be easily manipulated. When a person knows who they are, external pressure loses its power. When a person understands their purpose, distractions becomes less effective. When a person remains connected to their principles, intimidations begin to fail. The narrative suggests that this spiritual alignment terrified opponents more than any aggressive action ever could. Why? Because aggression is predictable, force can be measured, conflict can be anticipated, but calm certainty is difficult to control. Now, a person who acts from this inner conviction rather than external validation becomes extraordinarily difficult to manipulate. This is why the text repeatedly returns to this idea of stillness. Stillness is not inactivity, stillness is mastery. Stillness is the ability to remain centered while others remain overwhelmed. Stillness is the ability to think clearly while others become emotional. Stillness is the ability to act deliberately while others act impulsively. The narrative presents stillness as a force that destabilizes systems built upon fear, urgency, and emotional manipulation. Another key lesson is about timing. Many people know what they want to do, but fail because they do it all wrong, at the wrong moment. Timing transforms ordinary decisions into extraordinary outcomes. The individual understood that winning was not about acting first, it was about acting correctly. They allowed circumstances to mature. They allowed opponents to reveal their intentions. They allowed overconfidence to create vulnerability. Then they acted. This patience made their eventual success appear effortless, though it was actually the result of immense discipline. The text repeatedly reminds readers that discipline often looks boring. It lacks the drama people associate with greatness. Yet, nearly every lasting achievement is built upon disciplined choices repeated consistently over time. Discipline enabled the individual to stay focused. Discipline prevented emotional overreactions. Discipline created stability during uncertainty. Discipline allowed them to trust the process rather than chase immediate gratification. This disciplined approach eventually produced what the narrative describes as a final stand. Importantly, the final stand was not a desperate act. It was not a last minute gamble. It was a culmination of preparation. Every observation, every act of patience, every moment of restraint, every disciplined decision, all of it contributed to a decisive outcome. The test argues that the most effective victories often occur without dramatic confrontation. Instead of destroying opponents, the individual allow the opponents to defeat themselves through their own assumptions, arrogance, and lack of clarity. This idea reflects a higher level of strategic thinking. Rather than forcing outcomes, they created conditions in which outcomes emerged naturally. Rather than exhausting themselves fighting every battle, they focus on understanding the deeper structure beneath the conflict. Rather than seeking revenge, they sought effectiveness. This distinction elevated their actions beyond ordinary competition. By the conclusion of the narrative, the focus shifts from victory to transformation. The individual is no longer defined by the conflicts that they had to endure, but they are defined by what they learned through it. They understand that power is not loud, power is not frantic, power is not emotional volatility disguised as confidence. Real power is clarity, real power is restraint, real power is timing. Real power is the courage to remain aligned with truth when everything around you encourages compromise. So, the final lesson here is perhaps the most important. Winning is not about proving yourself to others, it is about becoming so aligned with reality, purpose, and principle that external validation becomes unnecessary. The individual no longer needs applause, they no longer need recognition, they no longer need permission. Their confidence comes from knowing they remain true to themselves under pressure. Not because they defeated others, not because they gained power, but because they demonstrated what becomes possible when courage is joined with wisdom, strategy is joined with discipline, and strength is joined with spiritual authority. In the end, the story teaches that the greatest victories are rarely achieved through force. They are achieved through understanding. They emerge from patience rather than panic, clarity rather than confusion, and alignment rather than aggression. The individual stood their ground when everything suggested they should fold. They remained calm when others expected fear. They moved with precision when others moved with impulse. And because of that, they transformed pressure into opportunity, adversity into wisdom, conflict into a masterclass on the enduring power of courage, strategy, discipline, and spiritual authority. Now, here I would like to introduce another related subject. Yesterday being the International Yoga Day, there is some confusion about yoga influencing or obstructing AI and its development. Now, there was a video on YouTube discussing this, how Advaita, the Indian philosophy on Advaita, is more applicable in comparison to AI. So here there are 3 points that are discussed. Sakshi Bhava of Yoga Sadhana. Is it causing hiccups in AI quantum computing laboratories? Are physicists perplexed at what yogis deliberately practice in arriving at the state for experience the beingness of Brahma? Now, why am I introducing this subject? This is where I want to introduce spirituality as per this revelations that was brought out from the summation of the YouTube video that we discussed earlier. And so, how do you apply that spirituality in life and presently in today's context where everything is focused on AI. So these questions, are we going into the future to discover the past? That they discuss on these three aspects. There is a massive problem paralyzing the world's most advanced quantum computing laboratories today. The physical universe actively refuses to function if it is being watched. A practice in yoga sadhana known as Sakshi Bhava or the witness state. It is a state in samadhi that yogis practice not merely for one lifetime. We practice over several lifetimes before it is actually mastered. And just like muscle has its own memory, so also our soul carries memory. And with that memory carried over lifetimes, it begins to mature. So this memory carried over several lifetimes, and the life principle supports this phenomena. The life principle, the prana that we carry, supports this. So this phenomena is known as the observer effect in English, or in Sakshi Bhava as the Sanskrit terminology. It proves that the subatomic matter exists purely as a wave of probability until a conscious observer forces it to render into solid reality. For this, there's a whole video on YouTube on this matter. You can go and watch it. There's a detailed discussion on how Advaita philosophy discusses on this Sakshi Bhava. And as regards its practice on the Sakshi Bhava, we'll have a separate session on that. So with this, we shall conclude here at this point, leaving some questions in your mind. And just remember, you can never ask a wrong question. It is always the answer that makes all the difference. So I would like you to keep the questions coming in your comments so that it can be taken up for discussion in future sessions. Thank you.